Looking at a post today, which relates to an academic study by a guy that's looking into the protein spikes of the COVID thingy, which we don't say because then the algorithm gets all upset because that's the kind of world we're in now, where machines decide for us what's good and what's not, and we wonder about whether or not AI is going to take over the world. I would say it's already doing it. Everything actually seems to be about getting money and getting metals out of the ground to build machines and poison the ground. And it's actually almost like we're being terraformed. And I'm not actually fully joking when I say that, because I also believe in the concept of the orchestrated conspiracy versus the organic, and I very rarely believe that there are 12 people cracking their knuckles and going ha 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 ha. But I do believe that the systems can start to develop their own lives, and once they are up and running, then we end up that becomes the end goal. And kind of capitalism has become that situation. And when you follow it to its natural conclusion, like, ultimately what it really is, the biggest problem with capitalism is humans. And so really, we need to go. And that's ultimately, and then this article, which was, got me, was that it was talking about, basically the poison of the whole world, whether people had the vaccines or didn't have the vaccines, and then, it's like, and everyone that's been exposed has some kind of residual, like it was talking about in the story, and I was reading for the list, it was talking about ringing of ears, vagueness, combating depression, aches and bodies. And I have a sister who now has Alzheimer's, and she's only 65 years old, and everywhere we look around the world, people are having heart attacks. Listening at the hospital, at the cafe the other day, a couple, not necessarily anti or pro vaccine, just talking about how there are now helicopters flying across their house like 2 or 3 times a week, which they might have got once a week. Now there's someone coming in with a heart attack or stroke. And just look at go to the graveyards, go to the court records, look at for pro bono cases, look at the statistical climb. We're having now excessive, like, above and beyond the COVID deaths. We're looking at 5 to 10,000 deaths occurring additionally above than would normally occur. And they're saying this is because of an aging population, but the demographics don't actually match that. And of course, it's not helped out by the fact that the lead person in the Department of Statistics was actually fired, because it turned out that he was allowing his viewpoints to be, well, they weren't truthful. Let's just leave it at that. And of course, we have this entire, get back to the point. I've got to watch what I say, because somewhere an automatic system will come through and stop my ability to have a discussion with you. Like, surely we should be talking about that. And who gave corporates the right to actually do this? And, and it's sort of interesting because, again, like, you look at the one of the key funders of the Christchurch Foundation, which received $11 million after the Christchurch tragedy. It was Christchurch Foundation, and it turns out that the founder of that is Humphrey Rollison, and his offsider was Alan Hubbard. And Alan Hubbard actually is in a series of Paradise Papers connected to a right-wing organisation that basically believes that they need greater control of the internet to stop Islamic extremists, which is quite funny because, of course, the Christchurch Foundation is also sort of hand and foot and affiliated with the Christchurch Call, which is basically about saying we need online censorship to stop us people from saying nasty things about Muslims. So both sides are effectively just saying, well, actually, what we really want is control about your right to discuss things. I know I've gone from 135,000 to in the hundreds of months, so literally tens of thousands. My ability to earn an income. Where is the arbitration of this? Do I get to say, well, why exactly is this happening to me? Because I've never been, I have been into court several times and defended my abilities as a journalist, defeated defamation cases. I've never advocated for violence. I don't to promote breaking the law, and yet some arbitrary power has decided that, no, we don't like what you're saying. And of course, the way that the communication systems are set up, that would be fine. I'd go off and use newspapers and print, which is, I'd be happy to do around and do social media. Unfortunately, again, we're not talking about what actually happened to the print industry way before COVID. 10 years, 15 years beforehand, it basically got taken over by foreign privateers pumping very shady money into the country, and then effectively they pushed the prices up. So you kind of become very limited about your ability to actually have this free speech other than to use a private entity. So we've moved from democracies to worlds where it's actually now controlled by tech companies that are operating like kleptomaniacs. And yet, getting back to this issue of the COVID, that nobody wants to talk about the situation or talk about the constitutional breaches of government, or point out the facts that, during when Labor was in, we allowed the government to have breaches of basically excessive power. National and Act went along with it, and now they're calling out Labor for all that being COVID cowards because they won't come up to an inquiry. I mean, that is so two-faced. The reality, all of them, Green Party, the ACT Party, the National Party, the New Zealand, they were all up there in Parliament, which actually got exemptions when the rest of us didn't. The level of dishonesty, and now we just pretend it's all normal and we carry on, and it's not freaking normal. Ultimately, what's happening is, I guess what I'm trying to say is that what I see happening is that it became very apparently clear that the world has an aging an aging population, and wouldn't it be really amazing if some kind of synthetic kind of solution came along that slowly killed us bit by bit? Not trying to kill us all at once and we all rose up, but basically just trimmed off the users, the breeders, the users, and I'm using their language, of course, but the idea is that suddenly governments don't have to pay pensions. And of course, what were the pensions were there? They were for people like my grandfather, who spent 5 years of their life basically in the most brutal environments, fighting against supposed Nazi Germany and oppression on the human race. And the idea was that all these things, health, rights, all these statues they least we forget, are basically saying, no, you get these things because when we were asked to, we stepped up. And now we're being asked to say, oh, no, you're just a useless breeder. No, we're taking that back. We're going to raise the pension. And basically, we're now living in this death cult, which is like values youth influences. We don't have journalists anymore. Journalists are someone who goes out and learns their craft and actually has methodology and applies it. No, well, we don't, because we've got corporate media. Basically, if you say the wrong thing, you get sacked. If you're on electronic, you're an influencer and they don't like what they're saying, they turn the dial down. Try doing it independently on press papers. Or sorry, the paper print costs, we own those and we push those up as well. So it's a fairly bleak, bloody situation we're in. Anyway, on the other hand, I'm sitting here in a fairly lovely spot, probably very privileged. I'm probably, not quite the 1%, but I'm probably above the 5%. And I have a, really good day ahead of me. But I also know that I have, these big, huge battles to fight. And in a system where, unfortunately, the ability to access justice or even healthcare for me or my sister is rapidly been diminishing. And, yeah, I don't know what the solution is. But anyway, sometimes I keep these little diaries and I put them out there on the Deadline TV, so all 10 of you can actually watch what I'm saying. And but it gives, at the same time, what it does do is it gives me things to think about, which then I go and write about books, and then I put books out and I spend a lot of energy, and I get these things which, eventually, but not thousands and thousands because I don't have those resources, but hundreds and hundreds, and eventually we find good homes for them and they sit on shelves for 20 or 30 or 40 years if I'm lucky. And that's what I can do. And I suppose, it's what it boils down to at the end of the day. It's nobody's going to come and save the world, but it's all about what we can implementally, collectively all do together. Anyway, have a good day. And yeah, it's a very sad situation where this really big thing happens and we are not actually having a proper adult conversation about it. But unfortunately, that seems to be the way of so many other things out there.